you have been hearing since yesterday about the marine life of India. So this talk will take you a bit far away from the Indian marine life. However, I will try to help you understand how the polar climate and the polar ecosystems are also connected to the Indian marine life and to us. So first, to start with the theme where we all are here, the World Ocean Day. We are very well aware of where we live, and then this is what sustains us. And you have been hearing already that oceans represent 70% of this planet, giving more than 50% of the oxygen. And the presentations which have been there since yesterday, even I got acquainted with the amount of biodiversity the oceans has. Also, the oceans provide protein source to more than a billion population across the world. And by 2030, it will be employing around 40 million people, the oceans and the ocean related industry. So it's needless to say how oceans are important for us. But we know that there are depletions in the fish populations and coral reefs and many other ocean related ecosystems. So what we need is we need to work together to create a new balance. And I think as the World Oceans Day aims, we want to have the awareness about the beauty, the mystery, and the vital role of the oceans in our lives and on this planet. So take you towards the polar regions. Let me give you a brief where what all I'll be talking about in this presentation. So first I'll give you a brief introduction about the global and the polar oceans and how they regulate the Earth's climate, followed by a brief detail about the marine ecosystems at poles and their food webs, and how these poles are connected to the other parts of the world through the migratory species, which are very visible to all the bird enthusiasts or fish enthusiasts who are interested in the migrations. So, and then lastly, I'll be showing how climate change and global warming are affecting the polar regions and their marine life, and how the monitoring and the conservation efforts are being carried out in the polar regions. And lastly, I'll help you, if at all you are interested after this presentation, how you can engage in the polar research and its activities. So if you see the map of the world, we know that oceans are all interconnected. So we can say that it's overall one ocean. However, geographically, we name them into five oceans: the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, and the Arctic Ocean. And lastly, the Southern Ocean, which is the newest and the youngest ocean which is being named. So Southern Ocean is known from the Antarctic coast up till 60 degrees south of latitude. It's a new ocean which has been the boundary of which has been described in 2000. However, there are still debates about the boundaries, and with the in the International Hydrological Organization, so members are yet to come to consensus of what they define Southern Ocean as. However, the polar regions, both Arctic Ocean and the Antarctic Ocean, they are crucial for global climate regulation. They are significant carbon sinks, and they influence the global ocean circulation. And they support the unique ice-dependent ecosystems and wildlife, which are vital for the health of their own ecosystems as well as the whole globe. And this is what I'll be focusing on in this presentation in the coming slides. So just to define what Arctic Ocean and Southern Ocean are. So this is Arctic Ocean. We know it's in north. So Arctic Ocean is basically an ocean around the North Pole, and it is surrounded by the land regions of the different Arctic countries, which we know them. This is world's smallest and shallowest ocean, and it covers around 14 square kilometers on the globe, which is largely covered by sea. Southern Ocean, on the southern side, it's actually an ocean which surrounds the land region, and the land region is Antarctica. The Southern Ocean is spans around 20 million square kilometers, and it drives the global ocean circulation, and also known as the global carbon sink. So Just to give you a definition, since they are both at the poles, how the sea ice, how both of these regions are covered by sea ice, and the sea ice decreases and increases seasonally. So in winter, both the polar regions have maximum sea ice, and in summer, the sea ice reduces to its minimum. And since North Pole and South Pole has alternative seasons, summer and winters, so when one has the maximum sea ice, the other one has. So in Arctic, it's covered around 80% of the ocean is covered by sea ice in summer, in winter, and it declines to around 60% in summer. Antarctica, the winter sea ice is around 20 million square kilometers, which is almost size of the Antarctica continent, and it reduces to 15% of the winter sea ice in summer. So the sea ice is very important in regulating Earth's climate because sea ice has a very high albedo and it reflects most of the sunlight which falls on it. So in that way, it keeps itself. The polar regions are already cool, and then it makes the sea ice makes it more cooler because of this albedo effect. Not only that, due to the atmospheric circulation which connects the whole globe, the heat in the lower latitudes is being distributed to these polar regions, which are cooler than the lower latitudes. And on a longer temporal scale, there is a global oceanic circulation which carries the warm current and redistributes the heat generated in the lower latitudes to the higher latitudes. And when the heat reaches there, or the shallow warm current reaches there, it sinks. Since the colder water is denser, it sinks and then returns to the lower latitudes. Antarctica, in Southern Ocean also the same thing happens, formation of deep cold current happens. And when it returns to the lower latitudes, due to heat, the water again rises and it results or joins the shallow warm current. So this loop continues, and in this way, the heat which is generated at lower latitudes is distributed across the globe. So in a way, in a way, polar regions are keeping the temperature of the Earth in check or in a balanced position, since they are more cooler than the other parts of the Earth. Also, every season or like every year when the spring comes, so the sea ice melts, and then it results into, since the nutrients are all or are rich because of the winter convection or the churning of the water. When the light returns in spring, the huge phytoplankton bloom results in this region. And these phytoplankton blooms, they generate a lot of particles and which contain a lot of organic carbon. And since they are in huge in numbers, so this particulate organic flux, it settles down at the bottom, resulting in the organic carbon burial. So this way, they are taking the atmospheric carbon dioxide and then putting it and transporting it into the deep ocean sediments. Another phenomena is under ice blooms. They have been studied more in detail in the recent decades. So, and which through which the scientists realize there is yet to be learned, there is more to be learned in the polar regions, which we already know. There's a speciality about the Arctic Ocean because of its geography, like because the Arctic Ocean is surrounded by land regions, and these land regions have taiga and tundra vegetation, and there are 6 to 7 large rivers which flow into the Arctic Ocean. So every summer, when the melting happens, the large amount of melting happens, when the flow of the rivers is maximum, these rivers brings large amount of organic matter to the Arctic Ocean. And Arctic Ocean being the coldest, it has very low decomposition rate. So a lot of organic carbon gets buried in the Arctic Ocean. That's another way how Arctic acts as the carbon sink for the whole globe. Southern Ocean, as I have already shown the global ocean circulation pattern. So that global circulation pattern is connected to the circumpolar current, which is there in the Southern Ocean. So this way, the nutrients are the heat nutrients and the organisms are being redistributed in the whole globe, of which this Arctic circumpolar current is a part of. And just like the Arctic, Southern Ocean also has the seasonal blooms, which transports a huge amount of particulate organic carbon to the oceanic bottoms, acting as a carbon sink, one of the biggest carbon sink of the Earth. So these blooms are not only acting for the carbon sink, they also sustain very delicate but very beautiful food webs in the polar ecosystem. So you can see this figure shows the Arctic food web dynamics and how each of the component is intricately linked to each other. It starts with the base of the food web, that is the phytoplankton and the ice algae, and then the primary consumers, zooplankton and Arctic codfish. The top predators in the Arctic are polar bears, seals, and seabirds, and even human beings who hunt the seals and the fishes. However, you can see that the whole food web is intricately linked to the sea ice, and if you are aware that the Arctic sea ice is reducing at a very fast pace, so you can understand the fragility of this ecosystem, which is dependent on the sea ice. Similarly, in the Antarctic as well, the base of the food web is phytoplankton and ice algae. And next comes the krill. Krill is one of the base of this ecosystem, as krill carries a lot of fatty foods for the higher trophic levels. And the top predators include whales and leopard seals. And there have been reports of the declining krill population in this Antarctic region, and how it can lead to cascading effects for the whole food web dynamics in the Antarctic. So these food webs are not only important for their own ecosystems. We can see how they are also related with the other parts of the globe through the migration of the species. So just to give you an idea, that species migrate to find food, mate, and breed, and in polar regions to escape hard winters. So also in polar regions, as I have told, that there are seasonal blooms in the spring and summer. So species migrate to take advantage of the plentiful of food which is available in the spring and summer seasons in respective spring and summer of the Arctic and Antarctica. So just to give you a context of what we are talking about, Arctic tern, it's the bird with the longest migratory route. So it migrates from Arctic to Antarctica. The Arctic being the breeding ground for it, and when Arctic has its winters, it migrates to Antarctica to escape the wintering of the Arctic. So in this migration route, it travels around 25 kilometers from Arctic to Antarctic. And even the permanent residents of the Arctic and Antarctica, they also display this migration behavior to escape either the harsh winters or in search of the foods, which includes polar bears, narwhals, and beluga in Arctic. So this figure shows the migration pathways in the Arctic. So if the lines are visible to you, you can see that the red arrows, the bold red arrows, show the migratory routes for the birds in the Arctic. So it from Arctic it goes to the lower latitudes as well. Then there are blue arrows which shows the migratory routes for cetaceans, beluga, narwhal, humpback, bovet, and green whales. And then the green arrow shows the migratory routes for the pillipedes, which includes walrus, northern fur seal, and bearded seal in the Arctic. So you can see that apart from their own permanent residence, the Arctic is also a temporary home for some of these animal kingdoms' greatest migratory bases, which includes the largest animal, blue whale, to the longest root-bearing bird, Arctic tern. And more than 50 million seabirds actually migrate to north each year to raise their young ones as a breeding ground. To give you the same context in the Southern Ocean, so this figure shows the migratory route of the seabirds, red being the Arctic tern, which is again, as I have told, coming from the north, the Arctic. The white arrow shows the migratory route of the short-tailed shearwaters. The yellow one shows the black-burrowed albatross and wandering albatross and petrel whales, petrel birds. Then the Orange arrow shows the general north-south seasonal migration of other seabirds. This figure shows the migration of the whales, white being for the humpback whales and yellow being the south right. So as the climate is changing, which we know by the rising carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere and increasing global temperatures, we know that the oceanic heat content is increasing. And with the oceanic heat content, if I have to talk about the polar regions, these all species are very comfortable with the cold waters. But then if you raise the temperature, then they might not be that comfortable. So the direct impact of the climate change and the global warming, which are happening in the polar regions, is that the Arctic sea ice is reducing. The ice sheets, the largest ice sheet being Antarctica and the Greenland, they are melting, they are reducing, and the sea levels are rising. So sea levels is something which we know that will be directly impacting our coastal ecosystem. So be it anywhere, be it India or any part of the world. So that is one of the impact which is going to affect directly any part of the world. And then because of the rising temperatures, the fragile ecosystems of the polar region is something which is going to get affected. So this particular figure shows is from IPCC report, which shows the different uh, impacts of the global warming and climate change impacting the different parts of the marine ecosystem and the marine life in the polar region. The impact from the climate change or the adverse effects include the warming, the changes in the predictability of foraging grounds, acidification, and regional sea ice changes, increase in light and iron concentrations, and ice shelf losses. So you can see that all parts, some of them looks positively affected here in the short run, definitely. But then we don't know how it will impact the whole food web dynamics and the whole ecosystem also. So I am very happy to see the presentation since yesterday, how the conservation and the monitoring efforts are being carried out in India. Uh, so I was not aware of those. So similarly, the polar regions are also under constant monitoring and the conservation efforts by the international authorities and working groups. So in Arctic, we have Arctic Council working groups, which includes CAP, which is Conservation of Arctic Flora and Fauna, PAME, Protection of Arctic Marine Environment, and AMAP Working Group, Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program. So their work is to provide data for action. They also work to integrate the indigenous knowledge into the science and works to protect the Arctic biodiversity in the polar region. These are some of the CAP featured projects. AMBI being the Arctic Migratory Birds Initiative, it also held some of the workshops and the events in collaboration with the other regions. Even there was one event in India, since these migratory birds, some of them also travel to the India and other parts of the world. So this map shows the flyways of different migratory birds, and we can clearly see that the whole globe is being traversed by these birds, though they are known for their polar likeness. Uh, and this figure also shows how different aspects of climate change are affecting them adversely with these colored dots. This particular figure shows again a work of AMAP, I think, where they are working on monitoring the diversity of the seabird species. This is for seabird migratory birds, and this is for the animals, the fishes, basically. Uh, how they are being um, spread across the different Arctic regions, and what are the changes they are experiencing due to the climate change or the with respect to time. So in Southern Ocean as well, the two scientific organizations or two global organizations, SCAR and SCORE, has made a SOOS working group, which is Southern Ocean Observing System. which works on studying the ecosystem, biodiversity, and how it can be monitored and protected in the Southern Ocean as well. So, lastly, if you feel that polar region is something is of your interest, and if you would like to engage more in the polar research activities, I'm from NCPR. NCPR is National Center for Polar and Ocean Research. So that's the institute which is the nodal agency which works towards the polar region research in the India. So if you are interested, maybe you can join NCPR for your research activities. Then there is our ministry, Ministry of Earth Science, which is the under which NCPR falls. And ministry also carried out various projects. It gives various fellowships for interested people to work in the other countries, foreign countries, or to work in India. It funds various projects, if you might be aware of. Then, since I told NCPR is a nodal agency, it actually handles the national program in both Arctic and Antarctica, which gives access to any person or any research lab or academic institution who is interested to carry out research activities in Arctic or Antarctica. So if you are not part of NCPR or MOUs, but you are interested in carrying out research activities in Arctic or Antarctica or Southern Ocean, you can write a project and you can get it reviewed at NCPR under these national programs, and you can get access to the polar regions to Indian funding. Then there are some student bodies like APEX. APEX is the International Association of Polar Early Career Researchers. So even if you're not associated with any of the research project, any of the research institute working in polar region at present, but you want to learn more, you can join the APEX. You can get their newsletters and their opportunities, which you'll be informed time to time, and see how much there is for Indian researchers to work in the polar regions. It also advertises many fellowships and opportunities for young people from time to time. Then there are two big universities, University of Arctic and University Center in Svalbard, which are completely dedicated to the polar research, uh, if you are interested to be part of. With this, I would like to thank the organizers for having me here and the audience for such a nice audience. And I'm open for questions. Thank you.